And oftentimes it's like, I'll wait till the child gets older before I reengage. And then, the child doesn't hear from the other parent for 5 years. And then they pop back in like, okay, I'm here. I want to have time with my child. And then when the other parent bristles, they claim alienation.
Yep.
Right. Oh, you're alienating me from my child when the child's now 10 and you've seen your child once in 10 years. So Kristen's story, I thought was important to share because if we take her at her word, and I always do, she tried to engage the other parent with her son and successfully did so on a number of occasions. But now her son is 9. And now all of a sudden the dad is demanding, I see my son, and if you don't let me, I'm going to do this or that. And I think what oftentimes parents miss is how destructive it is to a child's self-esteem when you come in and out of their lives.
Right.
Hey, this is Diane Dirks.
And I'm Rick Voiles.
We've been working with co-parents in conflict for more than 2 decades. We've taught classes, written books, counseled parents, empathized, and agonized a few times to help people make sense of their complicated families.
We were talking one day, and it occurred to us that helping the most difficult cases comes down to one simple concept. Is one parent willing to let go of the tug-of-war rope, or is it worth it to hold on and fight?
So we invite you to take this journey with us each episode as we tackle the questions, should you hold on or let it go?
Welcome to Co-Parent Dilemmas, where we give you practical solutions to those impossible co-parents. It's cold, Diane.
Is that a hello?
Yeah. Hello, Diane.
Hello, Rick. It's cold. It's not so cold here.
Oh, man.
Colder there. It's in the 60s here, which is kind of nice, actually.
Oh, gee.
And my neighborhood went caroling last night.
I
organized caroling. It's called Caroling for Hope. Here on the island, we have a charity that gathers new and slightly used clothing and toiletries and stuff for kids in their first 48 hours of foster care.
Wow.
So when a child is taken from a home, they have nothing. They don't, they might get to pack a bag, but a lot of times it's chaotic or depending on the circumstances, and they end up in a foster home and they don't really have a toothbrush or socks or underwear, So we went around the neighborhood, and anybody who put donations on their porch got serenaded with Christmas carols.
Aw, that's nice.
Yeah. So we filled up an SUV with things to take to the Hope Closet. So I was very excited about that. How are you celebrating this season, Rick?
How am I celebrating this season? Holy cow. Notice I have to think about it. My kids are going to be showing up in town this weekend, so I'm excited about that.
And how do you prepare for that? Or is that all Janet's responsibility?
I have to clean out my office so I can make room for an air mattress.
There you go.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Fun. So I have a really cool good news story today.
Very good.
This is about hugs.
Do
you like hugs?
My daughter is just like an expert on this many minutes or seconds for a hug, and she really gives long.
Really?
She's a professional hugger, I think, an expert. Yeah.
Well, then she would love this story. When dozens of employees at Click Health said they wouldn't be able to hug loved ones over the festive season, the company created some magic to orchestrate sentimental reunions to surprise team members. And they created a video called Holiday Hugs using AI. And they asked for photos of their loved ones, and AI produced a visual hug.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Then those heartwarming deepfakes led to surprise appearances ending in real-life in-person hugs.
Ooh.
So they had the employees watch their virtual hugs with their loved ones they didn't think they would be able to see. And secretly, the company had talked to these loved ones, a few of them, they probably didn't do them all, and was able to get them here. And one of the employees said, I just wish I could really squeeze her right now, talking about her sister after watching the AI generated hug with her sister Marlene. Then moments later, her sister bursts into the room for a long in-person embrace.
Oh my goodness.
Similarly, Toronto's Fred Duarte gets the bear hug of his life when his brother Rico, who lives in Brazil, walks into the room for their first holiday reunion in 7 years.
Whoa.
Pointing out the health benefits of hugging, Clink Health says they don't just make people feel better emotionally, they also have numerous health benefits. According to the National Institutes of Health, hugs can lower blood pressure and boost the immune system. There's nothing quite like the warmth and reassurance of a heartfelt hug, added Click's chief creative officer, Rich Levy. Seeing the joy and tears of our Clicksters reminds us that no technology can truly replace the magic of human connection, but it can help bring us closer to the most surprising ways. In the most surprising, yeah. That's cool, isn't it?
So that is cool.
They started with technology, AI, and they had their employees in tears going, oh, there's my brother, there's my mom, there's my whoever. And then we're surprised, kind of like those videos of veterans or, people in armed forces where they surprise their kids in the kindergarten class, they walk in kind of like that. But I thought that was really cool. And even though the AI was able to give them a piece of that, it can't replace human touch.
No, it can't create a limbic system.
No, I don't care how hard you try. It just doesn't work.
Nope.
Before we get into our subject today, Rick, I want to just talk about 2025.
Okay.
Soon in a couple of weeks.
To a theater near you.
Yes, coming to your life is another year. And every year I feel older and older.
Yeah.
Well, a few things are happening in 2025. I want to mention my devotional again. I know we've been running some ads on it, but I've gotten quite a few subscriptions.
Nice.
And that is a devotional you'll get Monday through Friday, starting January 1. And it's not very long. It includes a Bible verse and some how that verse applies to possibly your co-parenting or parenting your children. And it's, I think, an affordable price, but it's 15% less if you do it by December 31st.
Ooh, there you go. Jump on it.
You do the yearly. If you do, you can do it month by month. So you can do it a month and go, oh, that was lame. I don't want that anymore. That's fine. Or it's cheaper to subscribe to the whole year. And I think I've said this before, but all of these programs are starting to be charged by Apple. The 30% if you do it from your Apple iPad or Apple iPhone. So I suggest you go to the link from your desktop instead of, I think you can go to the link from your iPhone, just don't use the app, the Substack app. It's confusing, but I don't want people to pay an extra 30% because you're using an iPhone or iOS app. What else? Oh, remember we talked about the pediatrician meeting? We had a listener who's a pediatrician and said, I would love to get some of my residents to meet with parents to talk about how to better integrate with high conflict divorcing parents, which I think is a great idea. We did a whole episode on that, remember?
I do, yes.
So we are going to be planning a meeting probably the last week of January, first week of February. We don't have I'm still trying to nail down the date, but she also wants to include some family doctors, not just pediatricians, but family physicians. Yep. She's very excited about organizing this. So I just want our listeners to know, as soon as we get that date and time, we'll be publishing that. But if you want to be part of that meeting, email me. I'm going to give our VIP listeners first dibs, because we've got to limit, obviously, the number of people on the call, because we're probably only going to have a couple of hours to do this. And if you want to be a VIP, what that means is go to Patreon, and all the links in the show notes. And for $10 a month, you can become a VIP. And you get lots of different perks, such as being able to attend our every Wednesday at noon hump day help group, where we just chat about whatever you want to chat about. You can ask
Yep.
me any question you have, and I'll be happy to answer it. And you can get feedback from other parents, how they handle different things. So we've had great success with our hump day help groups. And so lots of other perks for becoming a VIP for just a few dollars every month.
Yes.
Any other ads or things you want to bring up, Rick?
Well, I do want to say something about the hump day. I hosted that the last week, and that is just a really incredible group. What they do for each other. And at one point, Michael, I said, I'm going to ask Michael this question and ask him to respond to it about how to respond to a child. That was one of the questions that came up.
Right.
Because he's really good at it.
Yes.
The comments that he comes up with. And again, man, he came up with a great response. And I thought, man, what these people, yeah, they're in pain and they're struggling, but what they have to offer to each other is really rich. And the whole group
Absolutely.
was so supportive of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I
I
hardly have to
learned,
do anything at all.
right.
Yeah.
Every time I do it, I learn something. And,
Yes.
that I think is important, especially now that I'm kind of retired from working with co-parents. It's important for
Uh-huh.
me to continue to interact with them, so I stay abreast of what the newest, issues and frustrations are. So that helps me as well.
Yeah. So it's a great group. If you get a chance to, it's well worth the money to get 4 times
Yeah.
that every
Yeah.
month for $10. My
Another
goodness.
thing we're going to do in 2025, hopefully, we would like to do a show of parents who have been alienated from their children but have now reunited successfully.
Wow, that would be
Um,
great.
I noticed around the holidays, there's a lot of sad, sad stories. I'm part of several alienation support groups, just so I can kind of interact with people there. And um, it's really sad to hear the stories of people that just feel hopeless. It's the holidays and I won't get to see my son or my daughter or all of my kids. And interwoven in those sad stories, every once in a while, a positive one pops up. Somebody would say, I've been part of this group for 10 years, and now I want to encourage you that I finally was able to repair things with my daughter or son. And
Oh,
of all
cool.
different ages, my 10-year-old, my 17-year-old, my 27-year-old. And I think those stories are important to provide hope. So I want in 2025 for us to not only talk about high conflict co-parenting issues, but also provide some hope for those who are really in pain. So if any of our listeners out there have a story of your own that you would like to share, we want to plan a show where we have a few parents on with us to tell their stories. I'm already kind of working on that, communicating with some of these ones that I've seen on social media, but I also want our listeners to have an opportunity to do that as well.
I'll tell
So
you what.
reach out to me if you are interested in sharing a positive story about reuniting with your child after parental alienation.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to have a box of tissue next to me during that
I know.
show. That
I know.
is. I can't.
Some of these stories are just incredible. They
Oh
really are. And I've
man.
reached out probably to a dozen parents in the last couple of weeks,
Mm,
asking if they'd be interested and waiting on their feedback.
I hope they come. Yes.
So this story we're going to do today was from a listener named Kristen, and she is from what she calls sunny Florida. And the reason I wanted to do this story, I think specifically, is, and it kind of has to do with reunification. Um, and I've had many of these stories in my career, and you probably have too, Rick, where a parent maybe disappears, maybe, they get pregnant when, they're just loosely dating and they aren't really committed to one another. And then all of a sudden they're sharing a baby together and one of the parents takes off. Sometimes it's dad. I've seen this happen with moms too. They just take off because they really don't like the person that they're with.
Right. Yep.
And oftentimes it's like, I'll wait till the child gets older before I reengage. And then, the child doesn't hear from the other parent for 5 years. And then they pop back in like, okay, I'm here. I want to have time
Wow.
with my child. And then when the other parent bristles, they claim alienation,
Yep.
right? Oh, you're alienating me from my child when the child's now 10 and you've seen your child once in 10 years. So Kristen's story I thought was important to share because if we take her at her word, and I always do, she tried to engage the other parent with her son and successfully did so on a number of occasions. But now her son is 9. And now all of a sudden the dad is demanding, I see my son, and if you don't let me, I'm going to do this or that. And I think what oftentimes parents miss is how destructive it is to a child's self-esteem when you come in and out of their lives.
Right.
So let me read a little bit of her email and then we'll jump in. She said, I started to listen to the podcast earlier this year, and I've been thinking about emailing you. Although my ex is not actively involved in our child's life, I do have a dilemma. And I do listen to your podcast, as strange as that might seem to some people. I don't think that's strange.
Oh,
We talk a lot about parenting, right? Single
sure.
parenting, how
Yep.
to respond to kids. And if the other parent's not in your child's life, I can almost guarantee you the child is going to have questions.
Absolutely.
So hopefully, thank you, Kristen, for listening, even though you don't have an active co-parenting relationship. She said, I was approximately 3 months pregnant when I made the move to another state. I forget when she went to Florida. My whole pregnancy went by and not once did I hear from my ex. I called him a couple of times to let him know how doctor appointments went, but he never returned my phone calls. Since our son was born, my ex has never come to Florida to see our son, and he is now 9 years old. The only time he has met his father is when I brought him to his dad's state. I took him there once when he was 3 and another time when he was 4. After my son and his dad met, they stayed in touch for a while via telephone, but over time the calls became less and less and then eventually stopped altogether. I actually found out via social media posts that my ex came to Florida on vacation twice since our son's birth. And each time he was here, he made absolutely no attempt to contact me in regards to seeing our son. Recently, he's been randomly calling my house phone, leaving voicemails, requesting that I have our son call him. I wrote him an email twice stating my concerns about his absence over the years. I also let him know if he's serious about being in our child's life, I feel that there is a conversation that we would need to have first. My child's well-being is my number one priority, and it had affected him last time his dad stopped calling. I would appreciate any advice or input on what to do when an absent parent tries to come into a child's life after being absent and inconsistent all these years. I honestly have tried my best over the years to always keep the door open for him. I believe at this point, if he's not willing to at least have the decency to have a conversation with me, it would be best that he go through the court. What do you think? What do you think, Rick?
Well, there's several things that pop into my head, relationally and technically and legally. Let me start with the legally, I guess. When I read it, I got the sense they didn't legitimize and they don't have a parenting plan.
Right.
That was the sense I got.
Basically, she whole pregnancy she went without hearing from him.
Right. And so he's making all these throwing out these buzzwords, alienating, and I think the email even said that family members are saying you're alienating.
Yeah, I didn't read the whole email, but his family member is now accusing her of trying to keep the child from him.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking, wow, you think you're threatening us by saying alienation when if there was a parenting plan in place and he is not engaged in that parenting plan for all this years, he is not going to look good at all.
No, I mean, that's not going to stand up. So,
no.
I'm assuming there's more to the story that we're not hearing.
True.
Don't know why they're not together. I don't know what has happened in the relationship. Maybe he has good reasons to not want to engage with her. Maybe she's really scary. I don't know. But regardless, she's wondering, do I just sit back and let him go to court and take me to court and figure it out, or should I give in? And I think that has completely everything to do with the 9-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about legally. What other, you said there was also some things relationally that were important here.
Yeah. So one of the things, I guess, negatively that popped out, I kind of get it. Why are you trying so hard to create to make him have a relationship with the son is where I was going with it. And I get the desire for that. And then at the very end, kind of saying, well, okay, you've already hurt him once. I want to make sure that you never hurt him again. So I'm going to put some parameters, or I want to put some parameters around this. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's going to work very well, that kind of an approach. I can see she wants to protect her child from future harm and pain, but there's no way she's going to be able to preemptively stop that. I would rather her focus on, all right, how do I deal with my child's future disappointment with talking to my child and being this emotional safety net for my child, regardless of, well, inevitably when dad hurts him again in the future, rather than try to preempt something.
Right. So when I was working with the nonprofit and we would have reunification cases come to us, the first order of business was to spend a lot of time with the estranged parent to find out how committed they were.
Yeah.
Because we had enough cases to teach us a lesson where the estranged parent would come in and, we'd actually start making progress with the kids, and then they'd run out of money or something. And then they would just go away. And that's the worst thing for the child, to get them excited about, okay, we're having, or to break down the barriers with these kids, especially if there's parental alienation. And it wasn't always alienation. Sometimes they hadn't seen a parent because they were in prison, or they had alcohol or drug issues and they had to go away for a long time and get their life together before, so regardless of the reason, to build trust with a child when you've broken it so many times is a long, difficult process. And when you start making a little bit of progress, you get their hopes up and they think, okay, here's how a child thinks. Maybe I'm worthy again.
Yeah.
They're not thinking in adult terms like, oh, great, dad or mom's finally got their life together. I hope they figure it out. And meanwhile, I'll just wait here and see whether they do. No, their identity is tied to these parents. And if you went away for so long, what did I do? They always turn that inward. Did I do something to push them away? Or why hasn't my mom or dad come around for 10 years or 9 years in this case? I must not be worth it.
Right.
And, the motivation to see me hasn't been there. And that's where the parent who is in their life needs to be able to say to them, whatever's happening with your mom or dad has nothing to do with you. Even though it feels that way, they're probably having trouble committing to anybody or anything in their life right now, except for just managing their own issues.
Yeah.
You just happen to be one of the things they can't commit to, but that's on them. It's not because you're deficient somehow, but that's where a child's brain goes right away.
Yeah, I've seen that.
If my mom really loved me, she would move mountains to see me.
Right. I've seen that in the addiction world, right? Where it's if they would stop if they really loved me enough, and they just don't understand.
They don't understand the power of addiction. And even in alienation cases, Rick, I've had kids who have actively pushed their parent away time and time again. And when that parent finally gives up, they're offended.
Yes.
Well, I guess dad is who my mom said he was because he's giving up on me. And I remember saying to a couple of teenagers, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Who gave up on whom?
Right.
But even when they are actively pushing a parent away, they still take it very personally when a parent gives up on them. Right. So I just want our listeners to understand how powerful you are in their lives and that moving in and out as if they're, your Aunt Sue or Uncle John, you know, is not okay. It's almost better that you don't engage at all than to engage in this kind of, inconsistent way with them. And I want to be careful saying that, but all of the research out there tells us kids need at least one parent to be their rock, to be their stability, to be the one they know they can count on. If it's not a parent, hopefully it's a grandparent or a foster parent or a grandmother or grandfather, somebody in their life that they know that they can count on. They need that primarily, but they also need to know both of their parents, right?
Right.
So when we say they need one parent to do the work, that doesn't mean you can just discount the other parent, because kids are well aware that their identity is formed by these two biological parents. So they need both parents in their lives for good identity formation.
Mm-hmm.
And the other parent, who's maybe not their consistent, stable parent, really needs to at least be consistent in how they interact with that child. Hey listeners, you've heard me talk about the daily devotional for frustrated co-parents that I'll be releasing January 1st. Some of you have responded with interest in a subscription, so thank you. Starting this week, you can officially subscribe online. Since the holidays are near, consider giving yourself the gift of daily faith encouragement, as well as a few tips and skills from my archives thrown in there. You might also know someone on your gift list who could benefit. If so, check out the links in the show notes. And happy holidays. So, for instance, you can be a long distance parent. Maybe you're not their daily support system, but it's very, very important that the time that you spend with them is dependable, predictable, and consistent.
Yeah.
Meaning, I have my child every summer, or I see my child at least every 3 months. The child knows that mom, dad are going to consistently commit to me.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't do that and you put them on a roller coaster, it harms them emotionally.
Yes, it could. Yeah. A bad impact. Yep.
So even if you can only see your child once a year, maybe you live in a different country and you can only get 2 weeks off, at least that's consistent and the child knows it and can count on it.
Yeah, and that I like that point, because a lot of times we assume that quantity of time is what makes the difference, but it's the consistency that is more important than the quantity.
And even I think probably is worse is broken promises.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Even if you have a considerable amount of time awarded to you in a parenting plan, but you don't take it.
Yeah.
And you're constantly saying, oh, yeah, I'll pick you up on Friday. And then you don't show up, or at the last minute you cancel, because it just feels like you always have something better to do than me. Right?
Yes.
Indeed. I'm not first choice. If you don't get a better offer, you'll come and get me.
Right.
That's not okay. That's not a good relationship builder. But yet I've seen so many parents do that. And then they get so offended when the other parent's like, wait a minute. This is the 4th time you've canceled. And now I've finally stopped telling my child you're coming. And then you just show up at my door.
Mm-hmm.
And then they cry alienation. And that's not okay.
No.
So I just really want you, all of those of you who are not primary custodians of your children, whatever you do, however often you can see your kids, whatever your parenting plan looks like, you do it consistently. You be dependable and predictable.
Yep.
That's meaningful to your children. If you can't do that, then find another thing you can do. Stop saying I'm coming and then don't come. That's terrible. I'd rather you say, hey, I'm probably not going to see you for 3 months, but I'll be here in 3 months. And then you be there in 3 months.
Right. Yep.
Right. Make your kid a calendar and say, this is when I can see you. I know the parenting plan says I have more time with you, but right now it's just hard for me.
Right.
So I'm going to do this instead until such time I am available to take the time allotted to me. That would be better than saying, sorry, but I had to work again this weekend and then just blowing them off one more time. Your kid will get tired of that. And then that will become justified alienation.
Indeed.
Right? That's when
Yes.
the child, as they get older, say, forget you. I don't want to go with you anymore because you can't be consistent. And then you're going to blame the other parent when really your child, for good reason, is saying, I don't want this heartache anymore.
Yes.
Right. So let's get to a little bit of advice for Kristen, because I hate that this dad has done this to the 9-year-old. I mean, he went to Florida twice and didn't even call her.
Oh.
She does say in here, you got a new girlfriend. You know how that goes. You get a girlfriend, and suddenly your priorities shift. And I got to woo this person first before I re-engage with my kid or whatever. But so I hear that and go, okay, come on, dude. Like, if you want to, she doesn't say, did she, what state he lives in?
No, I don't
I
think
don't
she
know
did.
how far away he is from her. She did move to another state, but he wasn't involved in the pregnancy whatsoever.
No.
So I don't know whether they had a significant relationship at all.
Mm-mm.
Or whether it was just, a casual dating situation where it turned into a pregnancy. I don't know. It doesn't matter. You produce a child, you have an obligation or responsibility to the child, or let somebody else adopt the child if you don't want to do it,
Yeah.
But
Yep.
figure that out for the sake of the child. So it sounds like child has been disappointed already in dad's wishy-washy attitude. She's right in wanting to protect her child again.
Yes.
I think. I would not have the conversation with him myself.
Ooh, how else would you do that?
I wouldn't say we need to talk. That never works in any relationship, but especially in this one, when you say
No, he's not gonna.
before you can get
No.
what you want, you got
Yeah.
to talk to me.
No,
And
that's
like
yeah.
I said, I don't know anything about their relationship, but something tells me it's not been great, and they don't talk well. So I think what I would offer is, before we do this, let's let a therapist help. Are you open to getting a therapist involved to help reconnect you and our son? And I would even be willing to pay for it. I would go that far.
So you're talking about, and it wouldn't necessarily be a mediation, but it would be kind of that a third party that's organizing a plan for bringing the child in.
I don't know if it's a plan, because I do think they need to go to court. But no sense in going to court and spending all that money if dad is just going to go away again. So I would want a professional, and Kristen, a professional who's trained in doing this kind of thing, to say, somebody who needs to vet dad and find out, what's this all about? Are you just trying to get time with your kid because your mother wants grandma time?
Right.
Or do you really want time with your child? Let's see. She showed me a social media post where you were in Florida twice and you never called her to pick up the child. Of course, he's going to have an excuse for that, right?
Of course.
Oh, I called her and she never called me back and blah, 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 whatever. But a therapist who would say to him, if you're going to do this, and if I'm going to recommend, to both of you that you need to go to court and get a parenting plan in place, then I need to know that you're committed. And that means we probably need to spend about 3 months together, just you and the child, and talking through, let the child tell you how he's been hurt by you. It's not going to be helpful if mom tells the dad how hurt the child is.
No.
But when the child says, yeah, I don't know if I want to spend time with you because you stopped calling me when I was 4 and I didn't hear from you till I was 9, like, how do I know that you're going to be really committed? I guarantee you that 9-year-old wants to know his dad.
Sure.
But not if his dad's going to keep hurting him.
Right.
So I really wouldn't take that on, Kristen, if I were you, on your own. I would get his buy-in. Are you willing to see a therapist and, work through a therapist before we come up with a parenting plan? And then they could mediate a parenting plan. But I wouldn't go through the trouble of mediating a parenting plan until somebody says, yeah, I think the is going to be committed to this.
Yeah, for the benefit of the child, my mind went to strategically thinking, which strategically thinking doesn't necessarily include the child. But if she went ahead and mediated a parenting plan and he bailed again,
Yeah,
it would only strengthen her
I know, but
case.
it would be, she could also go into court. If he
Right.
takes her to court, she could say, hey, I contacted a therapist. I tried to help him do this. And the court's
True.
probably then going to order it. Right. So,
True.
but if she can talk him into it, and if he says no, then I wouldn't do anything. I'd wait for him to take me to court and then
Right.
have the court employ, or order a therapist, because what the therapist can also do is give this kid some validation that he's probably getting from his mom, but it's different. You kind of need validation from an outside source besides your mother telling you, yeah, you have a right to feel that way. You have a right
True.
to be
That's
mad. You
always
have a right
helpful.
to be sad. You have a
Yep.
right to feel this way. I'm sorry you went through that. All those things are really helpful to hear a professional say to you as a kid, because your mom's supposed to say that stuff. Or he
Yep.
may sense there's bad blood between mom and dad, and I don't know who to believe, and I don't know what's right and what's wrong. But a therapist can say, yeah, that was kind of wrong of your dad to do that to you.
Yep.
And if the therapist can say that to the kid and then spend some time with the dad saying, hey, this is not okay, that this child is a person. They're just not a play toy that you decide to come into town and play with now and then leave.
Yeah.
It's a person. And so you got to honor this person and respect this child's emotions, or go away and stop making mom crazy.
Yeah, that means you're only doing it for your own ego or own guilt
Or to
or
show the
something.
girlfriend I'm a good dad. That's the first thing that came into my mind is the girlfriend
uh,
probably said, well, why aren't you seeing your kid?
yep.
Oh, okay, I'll do that.
Mm,
If it'll get me into your good graces, right?
that's
So
right.
that's the motivation. It's the wrong motivation, because what's going to happen when the girlfriend goes away? The
Yep.
dad leave the child again. So I'm just saying, having a professional get in the middle of it a little bit. And honestly, if he says no, I'm not willing to do that, then I don't think he does have the best interests of the child in mind. And especially if you say, I'll even pay for it. And I would put
Yep.
that in writing. I would write an email saying, this is what I would like to see happen, just because I'm worried about our son. Last time you kind of disappeared, he really struggled with it, and he's struggling with the idea of it now, but I really want you to have a relationship. So here's what I'm proposing. Um, Here are 3 therapists in town that I looked up that have, experience in dealing with these kinds of cases. And Kristen, I'll put in the show notes a link once again to the afccnet.org, where you can look up therapists in your town who I think are probably, if they belong to that organization, they're probably trained, and let him pick the one he wants to go with, so that he doesn't think you're in their back pocket, or they're there in
Right.
your back pocket, and handle it that way. And like I said, if he refuses and I'm not doing that, I'm going to demand this, then I would say, well, then take me to court, because I'm pretty sure a judge will agree with me that the child needs somebody to intervene and be sort of in the middle, a facilitator.
Yep. So one thing I want to clarify, we're using the word therapist, but would you, I think I know the answer to this, but would a family therapist might be the first person somebody looks up to think about, but that's
Well,
not the
like I
kind of
said, if
therapist.
therapists that are members of AFCC have probably been trained, maybe even in parenting coordination or reunification. Here's how I would picture this working well, and it depends on the resources that are available to her. That a therapist would help them get on the right track, and then hopefully they could mediate a parenting plan that the court could approve, that could become a court order. And ideally, if there's enough funds, part of that mediation would be for you to have a parenting coordinator for the first year. You have not co-parented with this person ever. And it doesn't sound like it's going to be friendly.
Mm-mm.
So have a parenting coordinator after you finalize the case to keep him on his toes,
Right.
to keep him engaged with the child, and to help you manage the communication around the child. Because again, you don't want to get this child to a place of success with his dad and then dad walk away because you can't get along as co-parents. Then you're
True.
back to hurting your child again.
Right. That's
So
an
it's got to
excellent
be a
point.
long time commitment, that get a parenting coordinator then to help you and dad figure out how you're going to co-parent this child effectively so that the child can build on the success and not have this success with the therapist getting started and then find out that dad can't handle the co-parenting relationship and he disappears again. Or maybe
Right.
it's you, Kristen. Maybe there's something you're doing that's toxic to him that makes him go away. I don't know because I don't know you.
Yeah.
So a parenting coordinator can pick up on some of that toxicity and say, whoa, wait a minute, this isn't good for the child. Let's manage this better so that the child can have long-term success. He's only 9. You got
Yeah.
another 9 years, more than that, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
That there needs to be a solid commitment from both of you that he's important enough to get this right.
So you're saying that a qualified family therapist could have the skills to do this, or would you go straight for someone that is a reunification or has training?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Any therapist that belongs to the AFCC probably is aware.
Okay.
You don't join that organization if you don't care about high conflict situations.
High conflict situation, right?
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, if you're going to join, it's dumb to join and not, learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
So by virtue of somebody wanting to be part of that organization tells me they're in the loop.
Yeah.
Don't want a family therapist who has no idea that organization even exists, or they've never heard of reunification therapy or parental alienation or any of that. Because this guy's going to go in and tell the therapist, she's alienating me, and somebody who doesn't know what that means is going to buy that hook, line, and sinker. So you do need someone who's aware. So I'm just suggesting that, Kristen, go to the website. There's a place where you can find a professional, put in your city and state. 3 people come up, just send this to him. I wouldn't even call him myself. Let him decide who he's comfortable with and do that all in writing so that when he does take you to court, if he does, you can show the judge, I sent him this email and asked for this and he refused. And then the judge said, I think that's a good idea and we'll probably order it.
Yep. I just would not want them to get a family therapist. I'm using air quotes, you can't see. Family therapist that is trying desperately to get everybody to cooperate, thinking that that's what would help the child.
That's why I'm suggesting to find
AFCSC.
Yep. Don't just look on your insurance plan.
No. Oh, yes. Very good.
It doesn't mean that person that you contact doesn't take your insurance, but chances are if they're a good professional in this field, they're probably it's a niche.
Yes.
And they probably have a lot of referrals that they don't need insurance companies to support them.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Not saying that good therapists aren't on your insurance plan. I'm just, in my experience, when you get into this family high conflict divorce niche, you get plenty of referrals that will pay you your hourly rate that you don't need United Healthcare to support you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
yep.
So you may have to pay a little bit, Kristen, but to me, it would be worth the peace of mind to have it done. And then, if he does, and then that will only be good. But if the court has to order it, the good news is they'll probably make him pay for it.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Because you're the offender. She offered to pay for it. Oh, you wouldn't go for that? Okay. We're going to make you pay for it.
Perfect.
So that's, in my experience, how it typically works. So thank you very much, Kristen, for this this question. I think it's good for us to sometimes do some things on the other side of parental alienation.
Yeah.
That you can get accused of it, but if his child refuses to see him, it's not because of her. If everything she's writing in this email is true.
True.
Exactly. Child is justified in saying, I don't want to see you.
Yes.
So you can't call that parental alienation. That's self-alienation. I'm alienating myself from my child.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anything else you'd like to add, Rick?
No, that's it.
Okay. Very good. We'll talk to you all next week.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. The information contained in this podcast is generic. It must not be misconstrued as constituting legal or psychological advice. Decisions relevant to any specific individual, family system, or case require the direct evaluation of skilled, child-centered professionals.